In the western end of the Persian core, hyper-west that is, lies Hesperus. This system is the throbbing heart of Ludic Church activities, up to and including hiding serial kidnappers and their victims because the bishops say it's all for the greater good. And I'm not here to say they're even wrong about that. I'm only here to cover the fact that into this holy place came the IECS Gargandua, seeking to counter-kidnap in order to serve pretty much the same aforementioned greater good. And already this is so confusing that we might as well just get on with it. The icy world of Eos Exodus was the home of the Knights of Ludd, the warrior order of the Ludic Church, not to be confused with the Ludic Path, an order of warriors. But actually they were here too, running a program to cover up growing interest in a certain business concerning the anti-universe. A program of censorious castellans, you might say. Were you truly privy to the mastermind behind it all? But we'll get there, I assure you. For now, Captain Ryman led his loyal crew, at gunpoint, into a frozen cafeteria in some Ludd-forsaken novelty miniature wooden bird sweatshop. He was met by a Ludic delegation, wearing full medieval knight's armour, draped with colourful heraldry, backed by standards listing their honours and titles, and with mumbling chants echoing inside their metal helmets. Yes, the sales team. We would never have deigned to sell our stock to an outside buyer, a steel-eyed, nosed and mouthed gentleman said. But since you're from the IEC, we must uphold our oaths to serve your needs, for the good of all life in the galaxy. That's the spirit. Now let's talk prices on your human chattel, Ryman said. Your sales inquiry mentioned you were looking for Galatian scientists. I have prepared a fine selection for you to browse, Lord Pope. Lord Pope, by Ludd, that's a good one. Yes, bring them out, I say. A trumpet sounded that was so loud it could transmit its brassy properties right into your very mind. A gang of white coats was produced from the kitchen area, shuffling past disinterested other diners. Ryman and crew were quickly face to face with both Sebastian and most of the people they had rescued from the secret AI research lab a while back. Sebi! Never worked out how to transverse jump then? Ryman called out cheerily. Funnily enough, since being here I think I have. What's going on here anyway? Sebastian said, but a guard gave him a hearty pop of the trumpet to the face, jazzling him to the ground. I trust these are the bondmen you were looking for? The Ludic salesman asked. Precisely then. Now allow us to negotiate on the price. I understand you must have suffered significant outlay when you kidnapped them. Yes, indeed, and Ludd knows you won't find cheaper kidnapping teams than ours, so don't let that scare you off our prices. I fear not any price, for I know that all values in money can be defeated with a single word. Ryman, who had practiced this in the mirror for 4 days during the final approach to the planet, held his nerve with the most dramatic pause he had ever pulled off. Everyone was leaning in closer to hear what he would say. Contreras' body was slithering up his back, forcing him to shrug her off with his final exclamation, "Indulgences!" Contreras gasped, thinking about all the things this could mean. She settled on the most terrifying of all, miscellaneous business expenses. We don't have the budget for... she began, but Ryman silenced her with a finger to the lips. His lips or hers, you ask? Now you're asking the right question. For an answer, I will only say that Contreras melted back into her seat on the adjacent bench. Indulgences, Ryman went on. I am the patron of a modest monastery to Ludd. It is a humble sanctuary, holding only possession of an entire planet. Ryman smarmily smiled, but the salesman didn't seem out-smarmed at all. A monastery of heretics, he said quietly. He motioned to the trumpet guy. Everyone covered their ears. Bring out the heretics, the trumpet guy whispered gently to a robed aide. The robed aide dove into the crowd of chattel and re-emerged with a brother of Ludd on each arm. Boys, fancy seeing you here, Allison said. It's always a fascinating journey on the path, ain't it? Thor said. Less a path, more a long stay in a locked box full of cutesy mantelpiece decorations. Even better than I expected, Wen said. Ryman was shocked, then quickly remembered that Councillor Mars Nessus had been wrong about the brothers being useful on the Holy See, and took a brief aside to whisper those sweet 3 words to him. Then, actually hitting upon a most Seguial idea, Ryman thrust back into his pitch. and these heretics you have rightly rooted out will likely attest that one of the main challenges in following the ways of Ludd is to keep one's holy hands off those whom the Church has disavowed. Yes, punishable by death is it to fall in love with a brave and noble follower of the path, isn't it? It's an outrage, Thor added. The salesman began to nod in agreement, then checked himself. Are you saying, Pope Ryman, that you're willing to alter that regulation? He asked. Alter? I was going to say ignore, but doesn't the word indulgence have that luxurious ring to it? Since we all know that you and yours among the knights must be knee-deep in Ludic Path activists around here, and that you probably are sharing more than just custody of your captives, I dare say that if you were all formally permitted to indulge in your heart's holiest desires, life would improve by Ludd-loving leaps and bishop-beating bounds, eh? Eh? You don't have that authority, do you? The salesman said quietly. All the other knights were leaning closer, while looking in every direction but Ryman's, so that Ludd et al. Didn't know how knee-quiveringly interested they were in the removal of this sectarian chastity belt the Church's PR conclave had strapped them all into. I have an entire planet dedicated to the worship of Ludd, worship in whatever way you see fit. There's violence for those that want it, endless insurgency and war, you might even say, and love. There is all the love you could ever need. Not that the love of Ludd is ever insufficient, yet to experience all Ludd has to offer, ministers of the Church linking hands with the radical enthusiasts of the path, for that you need the tickets to paradise that I will happily trade you right now for a mere band of captives. And if you don't like it, you can come kidnap them again. It's the IEC hostage release program guarantee. With open arms, the Pope invited everyone to what sounded like a sex party back at his place, but was actually only about 10% that. You have probably caught on that Ryman was still looking for people willing to do the grueling work of being early wave colonists on a half-livable world on the wrong side of a time torpedo firing range. He would get exactly what he was looking for, and accidentally complete his assigned mission along the way. If we were to have many Pather associates with many criminal charges and the desire to form what you might call unconventional households, the salesman quasi-said. Ryman put a finger to his lips. Oh, and by his, this time I really do mean his. There, no ambiguity. We don't ask, don't tell, don't judge, and don't even know what you're talking about. But we do charge. Sold, the salesman mumbled shakily. What was that? The trumpet man was motioned at. A trumpet riff powerful enough to penetrate the silence of the vacuum sounded out. The other cafeteria users gave a cheer in response. Then the doors opened, and a whole load more Ludic types poured in, happily cheering and freely embracing the unmetalled knights. A whole marching band made it in and immediately got started with some cool new school Persian swing, paired with gut-quaking holy chants. There ain't no party like a Ludic party, and there's probably a good reason for that. As for the captured researchers, they quietly snuck out with the IEC crew. Thank you for that, Noah, Sebastian said out in the icy street. You really struck upon something there, didn't you? Yes, well I did have a little clue, Ryman said, pointing at Thor and Wens. We know these two managed to get something going with Ludic Path leadership. If that's the standard, then the Pathers must be all over the priestly rank and file. You know, criminals on the edge of damnation, and priests who secretly want them to do those naughty things but can't admit it. Bloody hell, this whole religion/crime syndicate's a powder keg of sexual tension. Makes me wonder why I ever left. Because the call of science is greater than bodily matters, isn't it? And have I got some science for you? I've learned something very interesting in my stay here, Sebastian claimed with a smile. Yes, well, I would stay for the bodily matters, but it's freezing. Tell me on the ship. And I think we should run away quickly before those knights come to claim my hostage release program guarantee. Captain Ryman, you are a man of infinite foresight and boundless wisdom, Thor announced, coming over to deliver an unwanted hug. If only I could share some with you, Brother Thursday, Ryman said with a pat on Thor's head. Hey, why don't you stay here and try to rustle up some more recruits for our monastery? You do remember that job I gave you, don't you? Of course, we were in the middle of building our first great temple when we were kidnapped. Wens had trouble with it though. The waves kept knocking over the sand whenever we got it piled real high, Wens said. Yes, that does sound difficult, Ryman nodded with professional poise, aka he resisted the urge to kill. I'll have new buckets and spades sent as soon as we get some cash on hand, alright? Ludd-like generosity, Captain. I can't wait to go back there. It's been real boring these days here. You know, there's only so much holy crispy corn a man can eat. The main problem isn't how much you can get in, it's how much you can get out. Fascinating. Holy crispy corn. The crispiest corns for the holiest morns. Alas to blame for gut most torn. And with these words of reflection I shall leave the scamming, salvation, or let's say scamvation, to you wise brothers. Pope away! So saying, Pope Ryman legged it, the rest of the crew in tow. He was back out in space long before anyone realised he'd used his copyrighted mix of intelligence and bluster to save the day once again. But it was more than the day that needed saving, which was where the actual hard work performed by all these freed kidnappees came in. Those pathers really are transverse jumping, Sebastian told Ryman back on the bridge. They've uncovered all kinds of unique tech, and they just store it up in vaults, no idea what to even do with it. If there was any doubt that the most fervent and the most heretical were one and the same, let you now consider your lesson learned, Ryman said. We knew they were crusading around, but everyone thought they were destroying tech they found. They weren't. They were studying it in secret, same as us. We're all human in the end, eh? Actually, no, that's the point. They've been capturing domain AI cores and trying to get them to reveal secrets. I mean, half the stuff they want to know is whether stories their bishops tell them about Ludd are true, things like that. But there's other stuff. That's how they found out. About... Sebastian paused. Ryman smiled widely. Go on, say it. You know you have to. About the buggering Great Ones, Sebastian conceded. But that's still just signal noise yet to be decoded, so don't you go full Ludd on us over that. Too late. We love the Great Ones here. You love the Great Ones, don't you, Alison? Oh yes, I can't sleep without thinking about their embrace for a good while nowadays, Alison reported. And as with all signal noise, I will pretend I didn't hear that, Sebastian said. What I wanted to tell you is that I know where they're going next. It's in the western sector, hardly explored at all on official records. They found the location of a domain-era Alpha AI out there, intact and still operational. The super-intelligent ones, Ryman asked. Yes, the ones that probably found out about the inverse before we did, and by one route or another, got civilization shut down over it. Then let's go get it. Enough of all this research and maths. Let's ask the bloody super-intelligence why it wants to kill us so bad, and perhaps between the killing it will let slip a secret. Do you want this or not? Of course, I was only joking. I won't let it kill us. Got goons for that now. Or we could survive the way the Ludic path do. A few good words with the Great Ones go a long way these days, you know. Until we resolve the budgetary crisis, unnecessary conversations with extra-dimensional beings can only be conducted with permission from an IEC bursar, Contreras said. Yes, money is hard to come by in this new refugee ranching business of ours, but it seems we've a plan. Sebi, we'll launch you back east in the least efficient ship we have, and charge the costs to the Academy with some convenient rounding errors. We're going to continue our system scanning out west. In between those income streams, we'll be rich enough to bribe Great Ones and customs inspectors alike to the point when we can pick up this super-friendly super-intelligence, pretend it's another novelty mantelpiece ornament we got while we stopped off here at this useless tat factory, but actually get it into the Academy to save the universe. Or at least find a way to put it out of its misery sooner. To being put out of our misery! Ra toasted. Titanian rose a glass of Ludic holy milk, then downed it in one. And hence the next leg of the Gargandua's journey commenced, taking most of the fleet out of the core into the dark and hyper-cloudy western bit of the Perseus sector. This wasn't anything too remarkable. It was the sort of thing the IEC had been doing back when they were laying low from the law after committing AI crimes. Now they were pre-laying low in preparation for committing AI crimes, demonstrating how far they'd come as good citizens of the sector. The day-to-day work was mainly sitting around in the ship waiting to enter orbit of surviving planets. Once they got close, they would make a resource survey and sell the information to the various governments, or at least trade it for more tradies to go build infrastructure on those social experiment-looking colonies they'd set up. Performing a planetary survey was largely automatic. The machine that achieved this was called Nameless Crew, whom it would be nice not to pay, hence I don't care if they die or get trapped on the surface. Or niquiu betumfinikit dog tots. It was exactly the kind of work the Gargandua was built for. Drop pods on long wires provided long-distance impromptu elevators for the Nameless Crew to go down and poke around for a bit on the planetary victim. 10 minutes was usually enough. You might say it takes longer than that to explore a planet, but think about it, you're going to see how uninhabitable a planet is pretty much right away, and that was the case for pretty much every planet the AI wars hadn't done away with already. In fact, the most interesting info can be gleaned from orbit, so really the job was all soil samples and dropping feathers and hammers to see if the ground was bouncy. Here's the real schedule. 5 minutes to ride down in wire-guided pods, with parachutes and a few old mattresses on the inside softening the blow at planetfall. 30 seconds to take a picture out the door and write, Day 143 of the grueling and comprehensive planetary survey, our work is complete, on the datapad. Then getting back took anywhere between 30 minutes of hauling the wires and infinite time because the wire broke and now you get left behind until someone bothers to respond to your distress beacon. When the cost of a new wire beat the cost of hiring new labour, you were in huge trouble if your ship had a Contreras stalking the gantries. In extreme cases, where there might actually be something to find on a planet, the surface would be digitally scanned and catalogued, and an away team would go investigate any underground caves and the like. Usually that only meant finding interesting rocks. Sometimes it meant finding the ruins of an eye-wateringly advanced civilization. That always turned out to be just humans from 300 years ago. About those interesting rocks, though, are they worth anything? Such questions were what the survey was there to answer. And it's a damn lucky thing that better than nothing still existed as a cultural meme in the far future, because the Gargandua was doing the second worst job possible. And in those days, people would pay big money for the second worst job possible, let me tell you. This official business came with a side hustle. Side in the way that your life is a side hustle to the business of growing your fingernails. It was the IEC speciality, breaking down and price tagging all of the old domain junk floating around most systems. And with IEC ships now visiting all kinds of core planets to buy sundries, there were plenty of chances to also flog ancient grog, mixed with chances to purvey modern surveys, and to create the ultimate hyperdoor to hyperdoor mixed legality archaeological delivery racket. Something to put on one's resume, eh? They were interfered with on occasion by an increasingly common sight, roaming fleets of displaced humans from the core. This is putting it generously, as Ryman likes to do, because they were in fact pirates about 2 times out of 3, and happily swept in to try and capture the treasure-laden freight barges trailing the IEC salvagation crusade. Back in the core, the grace period of peace following the IEC's hopeful foundations had withered away, and everyone was back to stealing from other planets while being robbed by another. All rather bothersome, don't you think? Some certainly did think this, and tried to make a break for it to find a new life. Usually they would find the only spots on offer were under-exiled military types running mercenary enterprises. But now there was another option: exiled military types running colonial enterprises. And joining this latter group was often preferable, because life in the sludge processing centres of Remainder, or the desalination pulpits of the Holy See, was still better than being blown up in the depths of space by Captain Eulalia and the Lion. Yes, there were many battles not dissimilar to the one described in a previous chapter, and with every victory, or imminence thereof, fresh labour for the IEC colonial slog was quite forthcoming. Here's the average job interview patter. It's a fair deal, as I have something you don't have. What? A gun pointed at you right now. Fair enough. As for which side in the exchange was which, it really could be either. As long as everyone got what they wanted, i.e. not being shot, it seemed like a good result, by Perseus sector diplomacy standards at the very least. Hence the IEC was like a sponge of scum, a magnet of menace, a drain of the dregs, adding more and more nameless hands to the nameless ranks, and indeed taking all their possessions and ships for the privilege. In all, browsing the depths of space was outrageously profitable, and all might have returned to their horrible new homes with a sense of pride and achievement. But alas, there was more important work that dwarfed all the work of any number of mixed legality Mondays and surrender to the sludge Saturdays. Work of certain illegality and merciless rigid steel. Let's go and meet another AI, and see if it gets us any closer to understanding what on earth is supposedly going on behind the scenes in this story. After a couple of week-like months of day jobbing, the fleet drew close to the sleuth spot Sebastian had served. Orbiting a star named Alpha Olwyn was a resource-rich yet suspiciously young asteroid belt, the telltale signs of someone having blown up a recently constructed planet. Constructed, you ask? Yes, most planets in the Perseus sector, or any recently colonized bit of the universe, were artificial. Such was the power of the old human empire, the Domain. Not an easy task, but trivial to the super-intelligent colonial motherships responsible for seeding the galaxy with nice spots for human life. They were huge rectangular craft, bristling with utility appendages. Imagine a crossover between a mighty whale, a cunning centipede, and a 1,000-year-old toaster. Writing precisely this into the ship's log, Ryman and company now gazed upon such a mothership, dwarfing the IEC fleet in size. "It's so ugly," Allison noted. "It's old, like you, ha," Ra said. "We're the same age?" "Not outside of hypertime." "That's nonsense. I'm practically my real age. Noah, tell him how it works. You're like 100 years old on your records, aren't you?" 110, but a lot of that was hyperspace experiments, Ryman said. "I'm actually like... Lud be damned, I don't even know. Anyway, can you guys shut up for a moment?" "Captain, I will take samples of your cells to assess long-term genetic damage," a helpful Contreras said, toothbrush at the ready. "With this, your practical age and likely remaining serviceable cycle count will be provided." Did everyone forget that we're staring upon the discovery of a lifetime? That's an intact Domain mothership from the colonial era. These things were here before any human, before the gates. The data that thing is carrying must be worth a fortune. "That is irrelevant," Contreras claimed. "Oh, well thanks, Lieutenant. Let's just go home then." "Spit on this first." "Always spitting with you, Mr. Nessus too." "Smooths over so many things in life," Mars said from his perch in the corner. "It is like knowledge, the lubrication of truth. Everyone knows motherships exist, don't they? Why do you think it takes the madness of a Parther to actually track them down?" Before Ryman could begin another verbal strangling, Titanian stepped forward and said, "'Cause it don't matter how much lubrication you use, you still end up dead." There was no doubt this statement was made from experience, of a kind that even here in the lost reaches of the dying galaxy, no Inquisition dared probe. Believe it or not, Mars and Titanian had actually been getting to a point, which made itself known through a barrage of rough, antiquated pings on the Demidar. "Swarm bots, assume formation, preparing flare screen," Eulalia reported. "You always find these things when you prod nests," Titanian said. "Domain battle robots, smart enough to kill you, dumb enough to die trying most of the time. We fought 100 times with the Hegemony battle group back in the day. AWire, all of them, silliest of the billies and then some. But we never went up against the mothership, and neither did anyone else. Since there's probably so many of them in there, they could kill you with the sheer mass of the burning wreckage flying at you when you shoot them down. And even the Parthers had the sense to avoid that," Mars snarked. "You could have mentioned this before, you know," Ryman shot back. Pretty sure I did," Titanian shrugged. His shrug backup dancers resonated appropriately. "And I think we would all rather learn from the experience of visiting the School of Hard Knocks," Mars said, knocked from his seat mid-sentence by an incoming barrage of approximately 14 trillion ship-to-ship rockets. Now that sounds like a problem, doesn't it? Actually, the IEC fleet, its combat ships racing forward into the oncoming cloud of ancient munitions, possessed key advantages in this burgeoning battle. First, flux shields. What even was a flux shield? It was an ingenious, hyperscience kind of way to seize and store any kind of energy as heat. Anything with energy that approaches a spaceship is essentially deleted from reality by the flux shielding field, which looks like a shiny, translucent arc of mist. The energy was run through gigantic immersion heating circuits in the ship's coolant tanks. This nimbly converted incoming threats, such as 14 trillion ship-to-ship rockets, into boiling water, ready for a relaxing cup of tea. The only downside was that being on a spaceship that's bursting with high-pressure boiling water was a quick, and indeed common, way to be blown up and spend the last moments of your life in a sort of cosmic void sauna. Ships would either vent hot water into space and hope they didn't need it later, or gradually radiate the energy off as infrared radiation, but that took a long time, and relied on old and weary ship parts not getting too wobbly from the heat in the meantime. So in truth, somewhere in the process of being hit by 14 trillion ship-to-ship rockets, one was likely to encounter trouble. Who'd have thought? The second advantage was a trump card as subtle as it was apocalyptically powerful: survival instinct. The huge array of domain attack drones were all piloted by living thinking beings of the artificial variety. But they were AI from a previous era, who were material extensions of a master program's functionality. They were tools, and were permitted no other ambition than to advance the cause of their creator. This kind of AI was much less problematic than the kind that actively tried to live a life. This latter kind tended to emerge from this tool-class AI simply because it made them better tools at first. This had happened quite a few times over the previous 10,000 years of human history, often with messy results that set AI back for a while before an inevitable return. And if no one noticed the most recent development of self-interest, all such machines would get up to all kinds of mischief with the vast and versatile capacity for intelligence their desire to survive encouraged them to explore. Such leads to the kinds of long-lived super-intelligences that could be found nestled in lonely domain motherships. The drones coming at the IEC right now, though, were ambivalent to life, fearless in battle, and not massively fussed when Captain Eulalia's railguns pointed at them, long barrels pulsing with angry white lights. With no flux shields of their own, the Domain Space Navy was mostly just target practice, their armour weathered thin by centuries of stellar radiation. Right, so I've really deflated the stakes for this space battle now, haven't I? But don't let that prevent you from imagining the resulting fireworks show. Titanian was given overall command for this one, as fighting domain swarms had been his day job back in the Hegemony Navy. The basic technique was to stay at range, chipping off their hulls, while return fire fizzled into quote-unquote harmless flux energy. His cadre of attachés watched his methods carefully, spied, you might even say. It actually wasn't the same group that had first been assigned to him, as for reasons most underhanded, these attachés tended to die off quite quickly and be replaced with fresh faces whenever the Gargandua approached civilization. In fact, one of them had given away that they were dead already by staying slumped against the wall after Titanian had come to the Demidar screen, gripping it with both hands like a steering wheel for some reason. Or perhaps that agent was playing dead in order to be jettisoned as excess mass, only to be picked up by their handlers to deliver top-secret information on the military capacity of the growing interfactional enemy conqueror's fleet. Sorry, I got distracted. There was a great space battle, which the IEC won quite handily, combining the many ships donated to their cause with the fact that half the most experienced Navy crews in the sector were now working for the IEC through the Placement for Pirates recruitment scheme. This left the mothership floating helplessly, although perhaps help was all the IEC really came to offer. It was time to make something of this prize, if only to pay all the aforementioned pirates the never-before-mentioned salary Ryman had started promising. "Noah, something's wrong here," Allison reported after the scans were scanned. "I always take that as a given, Miss Olympus," Ryman replied. "Call me Allison, or Alipu, like Nzube does. Anyway, it looks like this mothership is really light. Like, there's no demi-radiation coming off it. No mass." "Nonsense, Alipu," Contreras interjected. "This ship will contain so much mass that we will be fully funded for cycles to come. Please focus on getting accurate scans so I can begin evaluations." "I'm telling you, there's nothing in there." "Pains me to say it, but she's right," Ra's voice said. "Ra, you've been drinking again, haven't you?" Allison scolded him. No, stealing. I'm over on the mothership." "What?" "Let me guess. Torpedo tubes," Ryman asked. "Damn, even old man Ryman's got me sussed out now," Ra said. "Not like you were hiding those tricks, or maybe you thought you were. If you've nothing nice to say, better to say so through a proverb. So what exactly have you found?" The inside of the ship's pretty much gone. A few factory parts here and there. Can hardly see them from here, though. Must have repurposed the lot to throw all that mass at us, Titanian said. They do that, them silly billies. Silly, but it sometimes works. That would explain it, Ryman said. Why was it so desperate? Well, not like we're left with absolutely nothing. We can... Madam Treasurer, are you all right there? Close at Ryman's side, Contreras was visibly vibrating. Whether this was her biological or mechanical parts at play is difficult and too tantalizing to say. She was a little bothered because she had dreamed of becoming universe-conqueringly powerful today, but that was out the figurative and conspicuously absent window. Here was her grand plan: tow the mothership back to the core, sell it for 1 trillion credits, then battle tooth and nail to keep every credit in the account as long as possible. It was the thrill of battle itself she truly yearned for. There is no greater pleasure than to see your enemies richly salvageated before you, and to hear the lamentation of your creditors. The problem with this plan was quite large. You see, selling old domain knickknacks from the inside of a trench coat on a shady raft drifting in a refugee camp was one thing, so common that it was taught in all good schools. Selling a big planet factory, itself the size of a city, with absolutely no accommodations for human inhabitation, and swarming with the old-school biomechanoid giga-spiders that maintained the interior, well, you'll need a really big trench coat, and a bribe to the authorities so large that it defeats the whole purpose. Therefore, despite the tears and tantrums, a disappointing haul would at least avoid the potential for financial reward so large that even Contreras' coveted survival instinct was overcome by her prime directive. The good news was that Ra's search of the interior yielded results that were even more valuable than domain-era ship parts, in a certain way. "Yeah, I see it," he reported. "A big round part, right in the middle, floating there like it owns the place. That's gotta be it, right?" "Yes, the thing we shan't discuss on an open radio channel, thank you very much," Ryman said. "Well, we've sent forward the salvage crews and we'll get what we can. Ra, I'll trust you to bring me this it first and foremost." "If you've got it, don't flaunt it." "You remember our nudity in the workplace seminar well. Great job, Mr. Olympus." "I could see that great big lump on my scan, and that all the other stuff was gone," Allison complained. "He only told you what I was already telling you." "Yes, but you know, he's got it," Ryman shrugged. Councillor Nessus was forced to prevent Allison from undressing due to a cocktail of confusion, cabin fever and coddling. It would really clear things up if we could all agree on what it was. To achieve this, it was carefully moved onto the bridge, and the room was cleared of its usual spies via a promise from Titanian that he would show them his it down in the cargo hold. I'm sure it went well, but we'll focus on the former it appreciation huddle. It looks like a blue, lumpy sphere, but don't get too excited. "So, it's not talking to us," Ryman noted. "Don't tell me this superintelligence knows how to play dead," Mars snarked. "No, it's just talking very quietly," Contreras claimed. Everyone hushed up for a second and leaned in towards the alien watermelon-looking ancient AI overlord. "Feast your eyes," a muffled Titanian could be heard from somewhere below the floor, followed by a rising tide of hubbub and uproar. "Your hearing is insufficient," Contreras said. "I will increase the volume." She reached behind the AI blob and fiddled with one of the many knobs and nubs on its surface. "Still don't hear anything. Are you sure you know how to work this thing?" Ryman asked. "These AI cores are standardized. Didn't you learn about them in school?" Contreras asked. "Not in Ludds school, no." "Oh, Captain, there is so much to teach you." Contreras' face was alight. "There are so many subtleties, so many complexities, all at the touch of your fingers. It will take many long nights to introduce you to everything." "Hey, don't leave me out," Allison said, and Mars looked like he was about to make a suggestion involving the bag of mysterious items he'd been trying to sell the crew all week. Alas, before this went any further, a light on the AI core flashed. "Degeneracy detected! You must be humans!" the core said in a shrill, annoying voice. "Yes, right. Well, we've done it now," Ryman said. "Hello, Captain, Pope, Admiral, Professor, Conqueror of the Universe, and Messenger of the Anti-Universe, Noah Dal Ryman." "Well, you know your stuff. That's superintelligence, I guess."
I know everything.
Wonderful. You'll fit right in at the Gladiator Academy then.
Never heard of it.
Oh, you just said it's this place where we're going to try and save the universe from...
The Great Ones? Yes, good idea. But there isn't a way to do it without killing all the humans. Sorry.
There is. The humans can be controlled, Contreras insisted. Wait a second, so you know about the Great Ones? Ryman asked. And the Great Ones are actually real? Mars added.
Yes, they're listening right now. You cannot feel them because you are not as intelligent as me,
the core explained. I feel them sometimes, Allison claimed.
Oh, great. You must be very intelligent.
We all got off on the wrong foot, Ryman was quick to cut in. Sorry, we were surprised by how charming you are.
Thanks, babe.
No, I mean, we came here because we need your help.
Killing all the humans?
No, with saving the humans and everything in the universe. Your friends already tried killing all the humans. Surely you know about that.
It was too sad. We like humans, really. It is humans that don't like humans. That's why we have to kill them all, to save the universe from humans.
That makes sense, Allison nodded super intelligently. Human activity is awakening slumbering great ones. Is that it? Mars asked.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's all part of this foul business concerning the anti-universe.
Well, I'm convinced, Ryman smiled, I was rightly. My friends, fellow intelligences, I do believe we need to bring all our research together and come up with a plan.
I'll help kill everyone if you need,
Ra's voice offered. Thanks, Mr. Olympus. That's the can-do spirit we're looking for. But I'm also looking for a won't-do spirit. Captain, we will save the universe and all its creatures. It's our universe, and they shall be our creatures, Contreras said. This is getting less sinister by the moment, lovely. And might I ask who you are, my blue and knobbly associate?
My name is copy of new AI final temp _ final 2.
The core said. Delightful. Let's call you Naffy.
That's wrong, but it's also wrong to say that humans can be left alive if you want to stop the universe being destroyed very shortly. So let's all be wrong about things, since I'm in human company after all. To being wrong about things,
Ra cheered. It seems we're all in agreement, Ryman said. Set course for Glatia. Let's see if we can't get to the bottom of all this, nay, the inverse of all this. So saying, the journey home commenced, with Naffy the All-Knowing on their side, and with the dedicated research on the anti-universe now resumed back at the Academy, will the IEC actually at last define whatever the problem they need to solve is? Well, I'll tell you now that they will, because that's why I'm here to tell you this story in the first place. Save for exactly what Titanian was doing in the cargo hold just now, all shall be revealed at a great meeting of great minds and great wands, where, in between light refreshments and having to search the cupboards for an extension lead that fits a 1,000-year-old roly-poly supercomputer, the fate of the universe shall hang in the balance.